rebooted, Percy?
Thomas the Tank Engine is widely recognized for many aspects, such as its iconic characters, its popular music, and famous crashes that have occurred over the years. There have been a number of crashes throughout the franchise's existence, some just minor and others very deadly. So that begs the question, what was the most deadliest crash? Before we begin, we'll only focus on crashes that may have been or are life-threatening. Since not all crashes seen in the show have posed a major danger, not all of them will be mentioned. Ranking will be based on how deadly they are, not the scale.
I want to get out, he sighed. One moment, everything seemed safe, then suddenly... Falcon was derailed and hung dangerously over the edge.
Beginning with the least deadly crash, in the 4th season episode Bulldog, Duke was providing directions to Sir Handel about the mountain road. He outlined what Sir Handel had to do, and as they departed the tunnel, Sir Handel suddenly derailed over the edge of the cliff. Fortunately, with some help from Duke and the passengers, Sir Handel was able to be restored back onto the tracks. What makes this crash remarkable is that had Sir Handel not managed to get saved, the engine would have taken a tumble down the high cliff. As we've seen from prior incidents of engines falling off cliffs, the implications are devastating. Sir Handel may never have been able to operate again. Another possible outcome is that due to Sir Handel being coupled to Duke and the train, his drop could have caused a domino effect with Duke and his carriages falling as well. This outcome could potentially have resulted in fatal consequences.
When Toby arrived, he saw the lorry from the quarry again. It was loaded with rock. That lorry's in trouble, thought Toby. And he was.
In the Season 5 episode Horrid Lorries, tragedy unfolds when 3 lorries meet their fate in multiple crashes. One breaking down at a crossing and another plunging into the ocean, but the third being the most deadly. As Toby made his way to the farms, he was a witness to the lorry from the quarry veering out of control along a gorge before falling off into the rocks below. Despite the lorry being crushed, dented, and sustaining bruises, the driver emerged from the wreckage with only a bump on his head. This can only be deemed a miracle and a testament to why tall cliffs are not promising locations for vehicles. With this incident and Sir Handel's crash, it's clear why.
There was the station master's house. The station master was about to have breakfast. "Horrors!" cried Thomas, and shut his eyes. The house rocked. Broken glass tinkled. Plaster was everywhere.
In the Season 2 episode, Thomas Comes to Breakfast, Thomas's controls were meddled with by a cleaner, causing him to operate without a driver. He moved forwards and then towards the station master's house, smashing through the wall and their garden, just inches away from the family as they were preparing breakfast. Fortunately, no one was injured, but it was only sheer luck that Thomas didn't actually crush the family. Could have led to a very disastrous incident. The whole episode was a near miss, with the crash ruining their breakfast. And, as we know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, making this quite the deadly crash.
"Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear." "You miserable engine," she scolded. Just look what you've done to our breakfast." "It's up to you now, Duck," cried the driver. Duck put every ounce of weight and steam against the trucks. "It's too late," Duck groaned and shut his eyes. He veered into a siding where a barber had set up shop. He was shaving a customer.
In the 2nd season of the show, Duck is chased by an out-of-control goods train in the episode A Close Shave. chasing him all the way to the station. It continues its tightening pursuit until Duck barely manages to split off into the siding, just in time for James to avoid a devastating collision. Duck then crashes through the wall of the nearby barbershop, barely missing the people inside. Unlike Thomas's much slower-paced crash, Duck's was far more hazardous due to the sheer speed of the train and its immense weight. Fortunately, Duck's crash only had narrow consequences, with any greater force having the potential to cause much more damage and be very fatal. Not to mention, if James hadn't moved out of the way in time, anyone in those coaches could have been harmed. It's no exaggeration to say that the whole crash was a lucky, deadly escape. Next, in Season 19's Slow Steven, Steven perceives the suspension bridge to be on the brink of collapsing and hastily races to the next station to alert them, before leaving his train when he's informed the express is about to come through. Steven manages to make it across the disintegrating bridge before becoming stuck. However, he frees himself and is able to stop Gordon just in the nick of time, much to Gordon's fury. He loses his anger after witnessing the bridge collapsing into the ravine below. It is important to note that had it not been for Steven's quick and brave action, the express would have rushed over the collapsing bridge, leading to the fate of Gordon and all of his passengers. This would have led to a lot more casualties compared to the other crashes. Thus, Steven averted what could have been a disastrous and traumatic crash.
Neither the driver or fireman could apply his brakes. Something had jammed. The driver reduced steam, but Gordon was still going too fast.
Now, for the first crash that actually did cause harm. In the Season 5 episode, A Better View for Gordon, Gordon brings the Fat Controller to the newly opened station. Though when the driver and fireman couldn't get the brakes to work, Gordon ends up smashing into the station wall. This brutal crash caused the Fat Controller, driver and fireman to sustain injuries, something that the audience never sees. Not only that, but a platform the people could have been on is destroyed, which could have potentially tossed them out of the station wall.
Just look what you've done to our breakfast.
This crash was actually inspired by a real crash in Paris in 1895, when a speeding train's brakes failed, making it run through the buffers, across the station and into the streets below, tragically resulting in one death. Not only was A Better View for Gordon inspired from this incident, but also a novel which was eventually adapted into the movie Hugo. So, if we've learned anything from the real event and other adaptations, this type of crash is very deadly.
Everything happened at once.
In the movie Journey Beyond Sodor, Henry is pulling a goods train when he notices another train up ahead, the signal not indicating him to stop. This leads to him crashing into the train and smashing over the edge of Vickerstown Viaduct, with pieces of it falling below. There were a large number of individuals very close to the wreckage of the viaduct, and fortunately, none of them were injured. However, the situation could have been much deadlier. The rumble from the viaduct could have caused fatalities to those close by, and traffic, Or if the train had been a passenger train, there would have been countless injuries. Not to mention if Henry had fallen all the way down. This crash is far more dangerous than Gordon's due to the sheer number of people in the area that could have been harmed. If some of the people had taken only a few steps forward, they would have encountered their fate. Next, in Season 1 of the show, one of the most iconic crashes in the franchise occurred in the episode The Flying Kipper. Taking the Flying Kipper on his night run, Henry found himself diverted due to the cold freezing the points, leading him to a goods train going at high speed. The tremendous force of the crash knocked Henry off the track and destroyed the brake van. This crash was deadly for multiple reasons. Firstly, it led to Henry having to be rebuilt and given a new shape. Additionally, it said that the driver and fireman were able to escape while the guard stayed put.
The kipper is due, said the guard. Who cares, said the fireman. This is good cocoa. The driver got up. Come on, fireman, back to our engine. They got out just in time.
This indicates that the guard was inside the brake van when Henry hit it, and judging by the extent of the damage, he sadly may have met his fate. Although no references are made about the guard afterwards, it makes for a very deadly crash.
Well, I'll tell you a story that'll make your funnel quiver, Rusty said.
A long time ago, a little engine was returning home. It was a misty moonlit night. As the engine crossed the old iron bridge, he suddenly lost control and plunged over the side into the swamps below.
In the Season 5 episode, Duncan Gets Spooked, Rusty tells Duncan a story said to have occurred on the old iron bridge. It depicts an engine that loses control, careening into the swamps below. Though its truth is uncertain, the consequences of the story alone make it a devastating crash. This is the first crash to be tied with actual death, raising suspicions that the driver and the fireman may not have survived the fall, along with the engine. The supernatural sightings of this engine suggest that their fates were sealed. Unlike all the other crashes, this is the first one where people and engines actually did meet their bitter end, making this one of the most deadliest crashes in the entire show.
Then came the alarm. "Danger! Clear the quarry!" shouted the quarrymaster. Workmen scrambled into the trucks. "Thank goodness we're here," said the twins. They were just puffing out of the quarry when... "Help! Wait for me!" A workman had been left behind. Ben waited as the man climbed quickly aboard. The twins left the quarry just in time.
In the Season 3 episode Heroes, Bill and Ben find themselves at the quarry when a rock slide triggers a collapse that leads to a near-fatal disaster. Sirens direct everyone to safety in the trucks behind the twins. Bill and Ben manage to get all the workmen out of the quarry. Rocks and broken buildings lay everywhere and form the wreckage of what could have been the site of a mass casualty event. The sheer magnitude of the damage alone is beyond devastating, but what could have been is also enough to make one pause. If any workmen had been missed, or if Bill and Ben hadn't made it out in time, the outcome could have been much worse. This was certainly one of the most dangerous crashes in the entire show.
At the yards, Percy was collecting trucks. Then he heard Boulder.
Oh no, it's heading straight for me!
The 5th season's Rusty and the Boulder episode contains one of the most legendary moments in the whole Thomas the Tank Engine franchise. The episode begins with the excavation of a new quarry, which serves as the catalyst for an out-of-control boulder rolling down the railway. The boulder narrowly misses Rusty and his cohorts, Scarloey and Rheneas, before finally destroying and blowing up a shed near to Percy. Prompted by the destruction, the quarry is abandoned. While this incident may have seemed merely dangerous, the possible consequences had the situation turned out differently are truly traumatic. The boulder was huge and a force to be reckoned with. Had it collided with any of the engines, buildings, or the people inside them, it could have caused multiple fatalities. This is, without a doubt, one of the most dangerous scenarios in Thomas's history.
Then there was trouble again.
Get out of here fast! The mine's collapsing!
Finally, the most deadliest crash in the entire show is from Season 5 episode Put Upon Percy. Percy travelled to the mine shaft and was asked to help push some trucks stuck in the mechanism, but he pushed them with a bit too much speed and effort, causing them to roll down to the mine shaft and crash into a support beam. Subsequently, the mine collapsed and an avalanche ensued and buried Percy, his driver, and his fireman. Fortunately, they had the canvas barrier to shield them from danger.
Then he remembered something he had seen earlier.
There's a canvas barrier by the track! That might save us!
They were just in time.
What makes this crash the most destructive is for various reasons. First of all, as the mine collapsed, a number of trucks that crashed at the bottom were crushed by the mine, sadly meaning those troublesome trucks are gone for good. Secondly, it's probable that the trucks were down there for miners and workmen to sort out, implying that these individuals were present in the mine and therefore met their fate by the collapse. Furthermore, there was a chance that the avalanche would have fully submerged Percy and his driver and fireman, and had it not been for the canvas shield, the three of them may have been badly hurt or even suffocated. All of these factors together make this the deadliest crash in the entire show. What do you think? Were there any crashes not mentioned that you think were deadly? Make sure to let us know.